The red and blue lights danced across my ing room walls, glinting off the polished steel of my Olympic barbell. I just powered through my fifth set of clean and jerks, sweat dripping, muscles burning, when the chaos erupted outside. 3 police cruisers screeched into my driveway, and I could see officers VYing through my yard, heading straight for my backyard gym. I grabbed a towel, wiped my face, and braced myself. This wasn't a total shock. Ever since Linda Harris moved in across the street, I've been waiting for her to pull something like this. The lead officer stepped into my gym, his hand hovering near his holster, eyes scanning the weight racks, the padded flooring, the custom Olympic platform. His tense expression melted into confusion. "Noise complaint," he said, his voice flat, like he was already questioning why he was here. My gym was soundproof to perfection, a way anyone could hear a thing. Then I saw her. Linda, arms crossed, standing at the edge of my property, her smug grin practically glowing. She thought she had me. What she didn't know was who she was messing with. That was about to change. 6 months ago, I was at the top of my game. My name, Marcus Reed, was splashed across sports broadcasts, my face on billboards for athletic gear. I just qualified for my 3rd international championship when disaster hit a torn Achilles during a crucial match. Surgery, months of rehab, the works. My coach and I decided I needed to step back, away from the cameras and the media's obsession with my comeback. I didn't want headlines dissecting every lift or speculating about my recovery. I needed peace. So, I found this quiet suburban spot in Willow Creek Estates. Modest house, big backyard, perfect for a private gym. The place had tall trees for privacy, neighbors who kept to themselves, and, most importantly, no HOA rules banning home gyms. I checked. Twice. I went all out on the gym. Professional-grade equipment, soundproof panels, shock-absorbing floors to kill any noise. I even got rubber guards for the weight racks to stop the metal plates from clinking. The Olympic platform? Custom-built with layers of impact absorption to keep Bratillions from traveling. I hired an acoustic expert, the same guy who soundproofed local recording studio, make sure no sound escaped my property. The building department signed off on every permit, and I had written proof my setup was legit. I stuck to a strict schedule, never lifting before 7 a.m. or after 8 p.m., kept the lights low to avoid bothering anyone, and maintained the equipment so it looked pristine. But none of that mattered to Linda Harris, the newly elected HOA president who moved in a month after I did. Linda was in her late 40s, with a sharp blonde bob that screamed daily salon VY sits and a face that always looked like she just smelled something bad. She campaigned for the HOA board on neighborhood beautification and strict rule enforcement, winning because most folks couldn't be bothered to vote. Within days, she was handing out citations for things like dull lawn colors or non-compliant mailbox designs. I hoped to stay off her radar, but my gym, barely Sybil from the street, became her obsession. It started small. A formal HOA letter landed in my mailbox, claiming my gym was an unauthorized structure. It had Linda's signature, but none of the other board members, which was against protocol. I sent back copies of my permits and offered an inspection. 3 days later, another letter arrived, this time about excessive noise during non-regulation hours. It included a fake log of complaints, listing times I wasn't even home. I was at physical therapy. I invited the HOA board to a training session where they used decibel meters and confirmed no sound left my property. Most of them were impressed. One guy, a retired engineer named Henry, even praised the acoustic design. Linda? She just stood there, scribbling furiously on her clipboard, muttering about community standards without citing a single rule. The board chair, a decent guy named Tom, declared my gym compliant and apologized. That should have ended it. But Linda doubled down. She started showing up unannounced, snapping photos of me mid-workout from the edge of my property. The first time, I nearly dropped the barbell. She'd hide behind bushes, her phone zoomed in like she was on a stakeout. When I called her out, she'd wave her clipboard and claim she was documenting for HOA records. I checked with Tom. No, such monitoring was approved. After her 3rd inspection, I installed security cameras. Then the rumors started. Neighbors I barely knew started acting weird. A mom pulled her kids away when I waved. A guy I used to chat with suddenly had no time to talk. Finally, Mrs. Alvarez, a sweet older lady from down the street, spilled the beans. Linda had been going door to door, warning everyone about my dangerous equipment and hinting I was using illegal substances because of my build. She'd shown photos of me lifting and said, "Normal people don't look like that without drugs." She even told folks to keep their kids away from my side of the street. I was floored. Linda had never spoken to me, never asked about my job. If she had, she'd know I'd been drug tested for a decade, with nothing but clean results. She'd know my equipment was standard for high school gyms. Instead, she went for character assassination. Things hit a breaking point last week. I was in the middle of a heavy deadlift session, my first big test since my physical therapist cleared me for near max loads. This was make or break. Either my career could continue, or I'd be retired at 32. I was focused, form perfect, when I saw movement by the fence. The weights thudded as I set them down out loud, thanks to the soundproofing but enough for Linda, who'd been watching from her upstairs window, to storm over. She was decked out in a polo shirt with HOA enforcement scrawled on it in marker, holding a digital recorder and her trusty clipboard. "I can feel the VY Brattians in my Lee VY-ing room," she screamed, though her house was 50 yards away. "My china cabinet's shaking. You're endangering the whole street." She even claimed a neighbor with a heart condition was suffering because of me. That neighbor? Mrs. Thompson, a 70-something former weightlifter who jogged by daily and had zero complaints. I stayed calm, finished my set, and walked to the fence. I showed her the laminated HOA approval letter I kept posted and offered to share seismographic data pro VY ing no VY Brattians reach her property. Her face turned redder with every fact I threw at her. When she saw she wasn't getting a rise out of me, she switched gears. "Neighbors have seen suspicious packages delivered here," she said, her voice shaking for effect. "And you're acting aggressive right now. Look at you bulging veins, wild eyes. Are your pupils dilated?" I was standing still, speaking evenly, hands at my sides. Then she pointed and said, "I don't feel safe. I'm calling 911. She dialed dramatically, backing away like I was about to attack, though I hadn't moved. I laughed it off and went back to my workout. No way she'd waste police time over this. I had security footage showing I'd been calm while she was the one yelling. Filing a false report was a crime. She wouldn't dare. I was wrong. When the officers walked into my gym, their attitudes shifted fast. The lead cop did a double take. "Wait, aren't you Marcus Reed?" His partner's eyes lit up. "My kids have your poster." Being a gold medalist and 5-time national champion has its perks. The first officer holstered his gun, looking embarrassed. "We got a call about an aggressive Indy VY duel and possible illegal substances," he said. I gesture at my gym. "Inspect anything you want. This is standard Olympic gear, and I've been tested for enhancers more times than I can count." They did a quick walkthrough, noting the soundproofing and professional setup. Linda, watching from the property line, went from smug to confused to stunned as the officers chatted with me like old friends. I took the high road, assuring them I knew they were just doing their job. I even signed autographs for their kids. One had my championship poster, another's daughter was starting in the sport. As they left, Linda stood frozen, her plan crumbling. She wasn't done, though. "This isn't over," she hissed while VYing her clipboard. "I've got 300 pages of VY-olations. I'll take this to the city council." She stormed off, slamming her door so hard her wreath fell. That was a tide had enough. That night, I called my attorney, the same one who'd handled my endorsement deals in a stalker case years back. She listened, then said, "This is harassment and defamation. The 911 call makes it serious. Send me everything." I spent hours compiling emails, letters, footage, and neighbor statements, building a timeline of Linda's obsession. The next morning, a local sports journalist, Jason Lee, showed up at my door. He lived nearby and had seen the police. "I heard Linda called 911 over your gym," he said. "Then I realized who you were." He pitched a story about my recovery with this local drama angle. I was hesitant attention could escalate things, but my attorney and team thought it could help. I gave a short interview, showing Jason my gym, explaining the soundproofing, and mentioning misunderstandings with a neighbor that led to police involvement. I didn't name Linda. The story hit the local paper. Olympic champions recovery faces HOA hurdles. Jason nailed it, framing me as an athlete trying to heal while respecting the neighborhood. He quoted supportive neighbors like Mrs. Alvarez and Henry, who praised my setup. By evening, sports websites and a major TV network picked it up. The athlete harassed during recovery angle struck a chord. My social media exploded with support, hashtags like the Let Marcus Lift trending. Fans dug up Linda's public profiles, exposing her history of petty complaints: a wheelchair ramp too wide, a veteran's flagpole, a kid's treehouse. What started as a neighborhood spat became a VY case of HOA overreach. My legal team kept working. Security footage showed Linda trespassing to take photos. We had recordings of her lies to neighbors and, most damning, the 911 call where she claimed I was a danger. 3 weeks later, the HOA held an emergency meeting. The room was packed: residents, reporters, cameras. Linda walked in, clutching a folder, but her confidence faded when she saw the crowd. My attorney and I presented our case: permits, acoustic tests, videos of Linda's trespassing and false claims, and the 911 audio. The room tensed with every reveal. When the lights came up, Linda stammered, unable to justify herself. The vote was unanimous. She was kicked off the board. The police captain later told her she'd face charges for the false report, a misdemeanor with fines and community service. She left the meeting in tears. 2 weeks later, I got the green light from the new HOA board to expand my gym. I launched a free training program for local kids interested in weightlifting. What Linda called an eyesore became the neighborhood's pride. With a wait list so long, I added extra sessions. Linda put her house up for sale, but it sat unsold. One morning, as I set up for youth session, I saw her power walking by, earbuds in, eyes fixed ahead, ignoring the kids training with me. One of my athletes waved, but she just sped up and vanished. Linda thought she could bully me out of Willow Creek. Instead, she turned my gym into a community hub. Some lessons, I guess, hit harder than others. So what do you think? Was Linda just a stickler for rules, or did she go too far? Should HOAs have the power to police private property like this? And what about false 911 calls? Should the punishment be harsher? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you're Team Marcus, and subscribe for more stories that'll get you fired up.